A common problem that security operations centers have is that somebody throws a threat intel report over the fence and says, hey, I just read this threat intel report. If this happened to us, would our tools detect it? Right? So the threat intel report is going to have URLs or domains or hashes. It's going to have a whole bunch of content, and the threat analyst is left sitting there saying, well, kind of based on this behavior, I think we might detect it. Or maybe the analyst will call their vendor and ask the vendor for detection information. So we developed Strikes so that the analysts can test their tools, can test their endpoint tools, and can test their network tools to understand whether or not if this thing hit them, if they would detect it. So out of the box, you can see that StrikeReady provides many Strike packages that are based on high-profile events that are happening in the news. Right? If you read something in the New York Times, or you read a major vendor blog, we're going to create Strike packages for you, so you can click a button and say, hey, I just read about this. I just read this blog. Help me simulate this thing in my environment, right? Help me simulate, this attack inside my environment. But you also might want to do this on a one-off basis. You also might want to say, I have this hash, I have this threat report, go and analyze this inside my environment. So that's what we're going to really quickly do today, is we're going to do a custom strike. So I'm going to come to custom strikes, and I'm just going to paste in a couple hashes, but I could also upload an email document. I could upload a PDF file. I could even forward an email or an Intel report. And you could forward an Intel report and just say, hey, extract all this information, run it in my environment, and tell me whether or not it would detect it. So what we actually do is we run a simulation agent. So we start a virtual machine inside your environment, spin up a virtual machine. Inside the virtual machine, we load your security stack, right? So whether your security stack is an EDR or whether it's an endpoint, an antivirus, we're going to then take the malicious files and copy them into the virtual machine and try to execute them. We're going to try to get your endpoint scanner to scan the files, either from a static or dynamic perspective. And we're going to help you understand whether or not your endpoint tool would detect these threats. So you can see that I just had those two hashes, and I'm going to do an endpoint-based simulation for you, and we're going to do it live. So what we do is we spin up that VM, and we take the files, we take the hashes, and StrikeReady will find the files based on the hashes, and we're going to simulate those inside your environment. So you can see that I created the plan for those two files, and what we're going to do is copy those into a virtual machine. And you could imagine this happening in real time, where we copy those files in, and we're going to scan them with your EDR, and we're going to understand really quickly, does your EDR actually stop these things? Because, and you can see what just happened there live, is that the file got copied in, and right away my EDR, my Windows Defender, popped up and said, hey, we detected this threat. So that helped you answer that question in under 30 seconds of, does my tool detect this threat? Right? You don't need to call your vendor anymore and ask them, because you just simulated it in real time. So we could come in and understand, and obviously Microsoft's continuing to go, you could come in and understand, like, okay, well, you analyzed that threat and you stopped maybe 1 out of the 2 of these threats, right? Or maybe your antivirus stopped 9 out of 10 of them. And you want to take that other indicator and block it, right? Because you want to have a stopgap solution to understand that you are able to detect the threats that you care about today. So in this scenario, you saw me test 2 different hashes, and my tool stopped one of them and didn't stop the other one. So what I'm going to do is push out a block rule for the ones that it didn't stop. And you can see that we have different hash types, and that's because we take the individual objects, and inside your environment, some tools can block based on MD5, maybe SHA-1, SHA-256, whatever the hash type is. We go and spider out and create rules for the different hash types on the different tools that support it. So I'm going to say, okay, take this hash and push it out outside my environment, and here's all the tools that can, here's all the different tools that can block based on SHA-256 or MD5 or whatever. So I'm going to push out this block rule to my, Fortinet, to my EDR, to my Defender, to my Exchange. And not only do we help you push out blocking rules, help you mitigate those threats, we also help you retire those indicators. So you want to push out a blocking rule today for a hash or a domain or URL, but in 90 days or 180 days, that blocking rule isn't going to make sense, right? Either the vendor is going to have a static way of detecting it, or for whatever reason, that hash is just not going to be relevant anymore to be blocking. So we also help you not just push out block rules, but also help you retire those blocks. This is the full scope of countermeasure management, where we'll push out the block rule and then come back in 90 days and delete that blocking rule off all your stack so that your firewall blocking rules don't grow to the sky.
Discover how StrikeReady can help you improve your cybersecurity. Sign up for a free demo